Hey folks, I'm Rob Franick. I'm editor-in-chief here at the Princeton Review, here to discuss some major news that is happening in the world of college admission and standardized testing, the ACT. One of the main college admission tests is changing, so today's segment, we're going to focus on breaking down the top 5 points that you need to know about the new ACT. But before we get into all the details, it is super important for you to know that if you were going to be a senior this fall, that's the fall of 2024, this change does not affect you, which means that you can still comfortably take the current version of the ACT. It is that simple. That said, if you're going to be a junior this fall of 2024, you may be starting to think about testing in spring of 2025, and hence, these changes will affect you. And let's just for the record note that the ACT and the SAT have long been billed as the Capulets and the Montagues of standardized testing, and hence the bitterest of rivals. But the truth is that these tests have always had more similarities than differences. And the most recent changes to the ACT bring the SAT and the ACT even closer together in terms of the key factors that are inherent to both tests. That all said, test changes are never fun. Our full team at the Princeton Review knows that even the smallest of test changes can be scary to students taking those tests, and that's exactly why we're here to tell you what you need to know so that you can feel fearless around test changes, certainly for the ACT, but any test change, any change in college admission policies, any financial aid or FAFSA fiascos that happen to befall us, or anything that is affecting college admission. So folks, without any preamble more, let's jump right into the key factors that you need to know about this new ACT. Point number 1, the ACT will be shorter overall. Now really, this is the biggest takeaway about the new ACT announcement. Specifically, the test will be about 2 hours long. Now, the ACT has yet to divulge the exact timing, and we're gonna hit on the key points that we have so far, but we're gonna stop for a moment of truth-telling. Now, when the College Board, the creators of all things SAT, made the SAT a digital exam, they did more than simply put it on a computer. They changed the test's structure, making it a computer adaptive test as well as making it a 2-hour test. Sound familiar? Now, the SAT is a fully digital test. You all know this well. But the ACT has followed the College Board's lead when it comes to timing, at least, as the new ACT will be a 2-hour exam. But Team ACT chose not to make their new test a computer adaptive exam, which brings me to point number 2. Point number 2, the science section on the new ACT will be optional. Now, the ACT has long distinguished itself from the SAT by having a dedicated science section. Now, the official word from the ACT was always that students did not need science knowledge, but rather science reasoning and skills to succeed on that part of the exam. But true science phobes were always a little leery of a test with a dedicated science section. So, beginning in 2025, for students taking the ACT during national testing days, so these are not for in-school administration, but national testing days, they will not be required to take the science section. That all said, it's not going away, but it is becoming optional. Now, the ACT already has one optional part. You know this, it is the writing section. And just for extreme clarity, I'm going to read to you a quote, I wrote this down, a quote from the ACT about your options on the test, and I quote, "This means students can choose to take the ACT plus science, the ACT plus writing, or the ACT plus science and writing." What could be more simple? The takeaway here, folks, is that you get to customize your ACT experience in this new incarnation. That said, we also need to take this entire thing with a great big grain of salt because we don't yet know how college admission teams will treat those optional sections of the ACT. Some very well might want to see your performance on those sections, while others could care less. Now, our team here at the Princeton Review, of course, track this information obsessively, and we bring that information to you, and we will do so as soon as it posts. But we're gonna move on. Point number 3, the reading and the English sections of the new ACT will have fewer questions. Now, the ACT is also shortening the test by shortening the sections of the tests. And we'd, of course, love to give you the full breakdown of what those new ACT sections are going to look like, but we can't, at least not for today, because those details are not yet been announced by the ACT. But the ACT CEO, Janet Goodwin, did say that the reading and English sections were going to have 44 fewer questions overall with shorter individual passages. Now, those shorter individual passages are yet another parallel to the new digital version of the SAT, but I digress. And just to give us some perspective, the current ACT versus the new ACT. On the current ACT, the reading and English sections combined have 115 questions, 75 English and 40 reading. Now, while we don't yet know how many questions will be on the new ACT's English and reading sections, we can assume that there's going to be less than 115 combined. Point number 4, you can choose to take the new ACT online or on paper. Now, when students finally do get their hands on this brand new version of the ACT, they'll be able to choose whether to take the exam online or as a paper and pencil test. Now, I'm being extremely careful about this wording because it is the exact wording that the ACT uses when describing this stuff. Now, in both cases, the online test or the paper test, students will be going to a testing site. So folks, this is not going to be an at-home ACT test. In fact, the online version will not even be given on a student's own device, but it will be given in a computer testing center. And as I mentioned just a few minutes ago, the ACT will not be a computer adaptive test. This all means that the new changes for the ACT are pretty different than the new-ish SAT, because let's remember that the SAT is only available as a digital test taken on a student's laptop or on their own tablet or on a college board supplied device, and it's a computer adaptive test. Now, students who take the SAT cannot choose a paper version except in very, very rare circumstances related to a specific testing accommodation. The ACT, meanwhile, will continue to give all students the choice of taking a paper test. I have beat this point down, but it is super important to make. And let's also remember that no matter how you choose to take the ACT, there is one part of that test that will not change, and that is my final point for today. Point number 5, the scoring scale on the new ACT remains the same as it did on the current or previous ACT. So the ACT will still be scored as an average of the scores on the required sections, and that still remains on the 1 to 36 scale that it uses current day. This is not a change to the ACT, but it very well may be the most important part of this ACT announcement. With the same scale, college admission offices can use ACT scores in the exact same way that they always have. Now, keeping the scoring the same does mean that there will be no change to how the score is calculated. That said, the ACT composite score right now is an average of 4 sections. With these new changes, it'll be an average of 3 sections: English, reading, and math. So if you're a standout math and science student, this change might not be the best news for you. But if you're better with reading and English, this change can greatly benefit you. But no matter what, the scoring is staying the same. It's staying on that 1 to 36 scale. That means that college admission officers, again, will use the ACT the same way that they did in the past. Friends, as always, you can count on me, our full team at the Princeton Review, to monitor everything that the ACT says, particularly in regards to testing format and structure, and of course, bringing you that information that you need to know about the exam and all of the test prep know-how that you need to ensure that you can squash this new version of the ACT. Folks, I'm going to stop there today. If you haven't already, please do subscribe to our channel. I could share with you any further announcements from ACT or the College Board or colleges themselves. And if you haven't done this already, I'll put a link to our website, princetonreview.com, in the chat below. You can take a free ACT practice test. You can do it today, tomorrow, literally anytime. And you can see how well you will fare on the ACT test. That's it for me for today. Rob Franek, Editor-in-Chief here at the Princeton Review, signing off. Be well.